The contract was cold against my fingertips. Not paper. Not ink. Cold like a metal door in winter. "Just sign," the man across the table said, sliding the folder closer with 2 fingers like he didn't want it touching him either. His suit was perfect. His smile was not. 800,000. Wire transfer. Today. No court. No mess. No memories. Behind him, the city hummed through tinted glass. Horns. Sirens. The soft roar of money moving. My throat felt tight. My hands trembled as I opened the folder. Divorce agreement. Non-disclosure. Disparagement. Relocation. And one last page with a headline that made my stomach drop. Voluntary disappearance clause. I looked up. Disappear. The man's smile thinned. "You'll be fine. You'll be taken care of. You'll start over somewhere quiet. Somewhere safe." It's what he wants. He. I whispered, already knowing. The door behind me opened without a knock. And there he was. Ethan Caldwell. My husband. The man who once kissed flour off my cheek while we baked pancakes at midnight. The man who said, "No matter what happens, we don't quit." Now he stood in a tailored coat that probably cost more than my first car. No warmth. No apology. Just impatience. His eyes flicked to the papers. "We don't have all day, Mira." My name sounded wrong in his mouth. I swallowed. 800,000 to vanish from your life. Ethan's jaw tightened like he was holding back anger. Or relief. "It's generous." "Generous," I repeated like the word was a joke. His assistant stepped forward, placing a black pen on the folder like a weapon being offered. I stared at that pen. And all I could think was how quickly a life can be erased with a single signature. I lifted my hand. My fingers closed around the pen. Then my phone buzzed in my pocket. One vibration. All. Unknown number. I should have ignored it. But something in me, something scared and stubborn, answered. "Hello." A woman's voice came through, calm but urgent. "Mira Caldwell." "Yes. This is Dr. Halpern. I'm calling with your lab results." My heart stopped. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "My what?" There was a pause, the kind doctors take when they're about to change your life. "Congratulations," she said softly. "You're pregnant." The pen slipped from my fingers and clattered onto the table. The room blurred. Ethan's eyes narrowed. What did she just say? I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. $800,000 to disappear. And a baby growing inside me. I looked at Ethan. His face didn't show joy. Showed fear. Not the normal kind. The kind that means he already knew something I didn't. And in that moment, I understood one terrifying truth. This divorce wasn't about moving on. It was about making sure I never came back. Because whatever secret Ethan was hiding, a child would destroy it. And I had no idea yet that the people paying me to vanish weren't just trying to end a marriage. They were trying to bury a crime. And if I didn't figure it out fast, they'd bury me too. I didn't sign that day. Not yet. But I walked out of that office with a folder tucked under my arm, my knees shaking, and a cold warning from Ethan following me like a shadow. "You take the money," he said quietly as the elevator doors closed. "And you don't look back." The doors shut. And I finally heard the truth in his voice. He wasn't begging. He was ordering. And that was the moment I knew I wasn't just being divorced. I was being removed. Like a problem. Like evidence. Like someone who knew too much. 2 years earlier, Ethan and I didn't look like the kind of couple that would end like this. We met at a charity event I didn't even want to attend. My best friend dragged me there because she said I needed to get out of my little apartment and meet humans with dental insurance. I wore a simple black dress. No diamonds. No brand name. Ethan was the guest speaker. Everyone knew him. The young genius who turned a small logistics startup into a billion-dollar empire. The man the news called the Golden Builder. When he stepped up to the microphone, the room leaned toward him like flowers toward sunlight. He spoke with confidence, but he didn't sound like a robot. He talked about his mother working double shifts. About sleeping on a couch in a one-bedroom apartment. About feeling invisible. And when the applause ended, he walked right off the stage, and toward me. Not toward the influencers in glitter dresses. Not toward the politicians with wide smiles. Toward me. "You didn't clap," he said, half amused. Shrug. I listened. He smiled like that was the right answer. "What's your name?" "Mira." "I'm Ethan," he said, like I hadn't seen his face 10 feet tall on a banner. I should have been cautious. I should have asked why a man like him was interested in someone like me. But he looked at me like I wasn't background noise. And for a girl who spent most of her life being overlooked, that kind of attention feels like oxygen. He asked me out. Then again. Then again. He didn't just buy me things. He remembered things. My favorite street taco spot. The song I hummed when I thought nobody listened. The way I hated elevators. He'd take the stairs with me 20 floors up, just to keep me from panicking. Fell hard. The kind of falling where you don't notice the ground coming. We married after 9 months. Too fast, my friends warned. Too fast, my father said. But Ethan held my hands and said, "I don't do half love, Mira. I don't do almost. I'm all in." And I believed him. For a while he kept that promise. We lived in a glass-walled penthouse with a view of the river. At night, the city lights looked like jewelry scattered across the dark. I quit my job at the small design firm because Ethan told me I didn't need to struggle anymore. "You can build your own dream," he said. "I'll back you." So I started working on my own brand. A little online shop. Simple designs. Honest work. I wasn't trying to be rich. I was trying to be mine. But over time, Ethan started changing in small ways. He stopped coming home for dinner. He stopped answering texts with full sentences. He started talking in meetings even when we were alone. "Can't," he'd say. "Busy." "Later," he'd say. "Not now." And the worst one. "You don't understand." At first I blamed his work. Then I blamed myself. Maybe I wasn't interesting enough. Maybe I wasn't part of his world. Maybe billionaires don't stay soft for long. Then the first real crack hit. It happened at a company gala. Everyone was there. Investors. Executives. People with smiles that never reached their eyes. Ethan introduced me like I was a pretty accessory. "This is my wife, Mira," he said, then turned away before I could respond. And later, when I finally cornered him near the bar, I whispered, "Are you embarrassed of me?" He laughed under his breath. "Don't do that here." "Do what?" "Act needy," he said. "Quiet. It's not a good look." The words stung more than they should have. Because they weren't just words. They were a warning. From that night on, the marriage felt like I was always walking behind him. Always catching up. Always trying not to trip. And then, one Thursday morning, everything turned upside down. Ethan woke me up before sunrise. Not with kisses. With a hand on my shoulder like a stranger. "We need to talk." His voice was calm, but his eyes were hard. I sat up, pulling the blanket to my chest. "What's wrong?" He stared at the wall behind me like looking at me would make it real. "This isn't working." I blinked. "What isn't?" He meant. My heartbeat thudded in my ears. "Ethan, what are you saying?" He finally looked at me. And there was no love in his face. "I'm filing for divorce," he said. Like he was telling me the weather. The room tilted. I couldn't process it. "Why? Did I do something?" He exhaled, annoyed. "No. You didn't do anything." That should have comforted me. But it didn't. Because the next part was worse. "I'm offering you a deal," he said. "A deal," I repeated, numb. He nodded. 800,000. You sign the papers. You disappear. No interviews. No post. No lawyers dragging this through court. I stared at him. Disappear, from what? From my life. He didn't blink. From mine. My voice cracked. "Why would you want me to disappear?" Ethan's lips pressed into a line. Then he said something I'll never forget. Because you're in the way. In the way. Like my whole existence was an obstacle he needed removed. I should have screamed. I should have thrown something. But shock makes you quiet. So I whispered. In the way of what? His jaw flexed again. Just take the money, Mira. That morning he left for work like he hadn't just detonated my life. And I stayed in bed staring at the ceiling, wondering when my husband became a stranger. 2 days later, I ended up in that office with the contract and the pen and the assistant and Ethan's cold eyes. And right when I was about to sign away my past, I learned about the baby. When I stepped into the hallway outside the office, the carpet felt too soft under my feet. The air smelled like expensive cologne and polished wood. Ethan followed me out, his assistant a step behind, watching me like I was unstable. I stared at Ethan, my mouth dry. We need to talk. He didn't look surprised. He looked irritated. We already did, he said. No, I whispered. About the baby. The elevator dinged. The doors opened. A couple stepped out laughing. Their happiness looked like a foreign language. Ethan pulled me to the side, away from cameras. His voice dropped. Are you sure? I just got the call, I said. The doctor said. I know what pregnant means, he snapped. Flinched. Then I watched his expression shift. Not to joy. Not to wonder. To calculation. Like he was doing math. How far along, he asked. I don't know, I said. They want me to come in for an ultrasound. Ethan's eyes narrowed. You haven't told anyone. No, I said. I called you first. He stared at me a long moment. Then he leaned closer and spoke so softly it felt like a threat wrapped in silk. You're going to terminate it. The hallway went silent. My whole body turned cold. What? You heard me, he said. This is not happening. My chest tightened. Ethan, it's our baby. It's a complication, he said flatly. Complication. Not a miracle. Not a life. Complication. My eyes burned. You can't just erase a child. Ethan's jaw was tight. I can erase whatever I need to. I stared at him like I didn't recognize the face. Then he said, take the money. Leave. And handle the problem. Problem. My baby. I stepped back trembling. No. Ethan's eyes flashed. Mira. No, I repeated stronger. I'm not doing that. His assistant shifted uncomfortably. Ethan lowered his voice again. Then you're choosing the hard way. What does that mean? Ethan smiled without warmth. It means you'll find out why this deal was generous. He turned and walked away. And I stood there, breathing in panic, realizing the man I married wasn't trying to end a relationship. He was trying to control the story, the narrative, the truth. And if I didn't play my part, he would rewrite me out of existence. That day I didn't go home. Not to the penthouse. Not to the life that suddenly felt like a trap. I went to my best friend Liana's apartment across town. She opened the door in pajama pants, hair in a messy bun, holding a coffee mug like a weapon. Mira, she said, eyes widening. What happened? I tried to speak, but all that came out was a sob. She pulled me inside and shut the door, locking it like she could lock the world out too. On her couch, wrapped in an old blanket that smelled like laundry soap, I finally told her everything. The divorce, the money, the disappearance clause, and the pregnancy. Liana's face went pale. 800,000 to disappear. Mira, that's not a divorce. That's a payoff. For what? I whispered. Liana stared at me. I don't know. But no man offers that much just to avoid drama. I nodded, my hands resting on my stomach without thinking. And that's when I felt it. Not a kick. Not movement. Just awareness. There was something inside me that Ethan couldn't control. And suddenly I wanted answers more than I wanted comfort. So I did something I never thought I would do. I went back to the penthouse the next day while Ethan was at work. I used my key. The elevator opened straight into our living room like always. The place looked the same. Clean. quiet, perfect. But perfection is just another kind of silence. I walked through rooms filled with expensive furniture that never felt lived in. Then I went to Ethan's office. He always kept it locked. But I knew the code. Our anniversary. The date he used for everything. Punched it in. The door clicked open. And I stepped into the room that smelled like leather and secrets. I wasn't trying to snoop like a villain. I was trying to understand what happened to my life. I went to his desk. The drawers were locked too. But I remembered Ethan always kept a spare key in the top drawer of the cabinet behind the bookshelf. Because once, early in our marriage, he'd laughed and said, "If I forget where I hide things, I'm doomed." Found the key. My hands shook as I opened the drawer. Files. Documents with company logos. Then one folder thicker than the rest caught my eye. Didn't have a label. Just a small red sticker on the corner like someone had marked it as dangerous. Opened it. And the first page hit me like a punch. A medical report. Not mine. Not Ethan's. A woman's name at the top. Sloane Kessler. Under it a note in bold. Paternity confirmed. My stomach twisted. I flipped the page. There was an ultrasound photo attached. Fetus. And a date. 3 months ago. I stared stunned. Ethan had a child with someone else. Well, not just someone else. Sloane Kessler. That name wasn't random. Sloane was the face of Caldwell Enterprises on television. The strategic partner Ethan always praised. The woman investors loved because she talked like a machine and smiled like a knife. I remembered the way she looked at Ethan at events. Like she owned him. Like she knew what he'd become. My fingers turned numb as I dug deeper into the folder. There were emails printed out. Messages between Ethan and Sloane. And one line stood out like a warning flare. "We can't risk Mira. Not now. Not with the audit." Audit. I flipped faster. Another email. "Her signature will protect us. The divorce needs to happen before the board meeting." Board meeting. Another. "She has to disappear. If she stays, she becomes a liability." Liability. Like Ethan said. My heart pounded. I wasn't just a wife. I was a threat. But why? I kept reading until my eyes landed on a heading that made my skin crawl. Asset transfer. Spousal cover. List. Properties. Shell companies. Trust. Amounts so large they felt fake. And beside each transfer, my hands shook violently now. I pulled out my phone and took pictures of every page I could before my vision blurred. Then I heard something. Elevator. Soft ding. My blood turned to ice. Ethan. Too early. I stuffed the folder back inside the drawer, shoved the drawer shut, and locked it with trembling fingers. My heart hammered as I looked around. No time to hide the key. A step closer. I darted to the side door of the office and slipped out into the hallway just as Ethan's voice echoed inside. "Hello." His footsteps moved into the office. I held my breath. My entire body shook. And in that moment I realized something that changed everything. Ethan wasn't only leaving me. He was setting me up. Using my name as a shield. Making me the cover for his mess. And now, if I didn't disappear, I wouldn't just be a wife who got divorced. I'd be the person they blamed when the truth broke open. I walked out of that penthouse like I was walking out of a crime scene. 'Cause I was. That night I couldn't sleep. Liana watched me pace her apartment, my phone glowing with photos of documents that didn't make sense. "Mira," she said gently, "we need a plan." I stared at the screen. He used my signature. Liana's face hardened. "Then you need a lawyer." "No," I whispered. "A lawyer means court. Court means attention. Attention means he'll come after me." Liana leaned forward. "Then who?" I swallowed. "Someone who knows how to find truth without announcing it." I thought about Ethan's world. His enemies. His ex-employees. People he'd crushed quietly. And one name came to me like an old bruise. Caleb Rains. Ethan's former head of compliance. The man who resigned suddenly last year. Ethan told everyone Caleb wanted more family time. But I remembered the way Ethan said it. Like a warning. I found Caleb's number online. Called. Rang once. Then a voice answered, cautious. Yeah. Caleb. Said. It's Mira Caldwell. Silence. Then a slow exhale. You shouldn't be calling me. I know, I whispered. But I found something. And I think my life is in danger. Another pause. Then he said, Where are you? Told him. An hour later, Caleb knocked on Liana's door. He looked nothing like Ethan. No glossy suit. No polished smile. Just tired eyes and a coat that smelled like rain. He stepped inside, scanned the room, then looked at me like he was measuring how much truth I could handle. What did you find? He asked. I handed him my phone. He scrolled through the photos. His face darkened with each image. When he finished, he set the phone down slowly. Mira, he said quietly, this is worse than you think. My stomach dropped. How? Caleb rubbed his jaw. Ethan didn't just forge your signature. He leaned closer. He used you as a legal firewall. I swallowed. I don't understand. Caleb's voice was low. If money moves through a spouse's name, it looks clean. If properties are transferred to a spouse, it looks like family planning. If you sign documents, it looks like you knew. My eyes burned. But I didn't. I believe you, Caleb said. But law doesn't care what you feel. It cares what's on paper. Felt dizzy. So if they get caught, Caleb nodded. They blame you. The room spun. Liana's hand grabbed mine. That's insane. Caleb's eyes were sharp. It's calculated, I whispered. Why would Ethan do that to me? Caleb's expression tightened. Because Ethan's not alone. Sloane Kessler isn't a girlfriend. She's a partner. In business. Caleb's laugh was humorless. In survival. He leaned back, staring at the floor like he hated what he was about to say. There's an investigation coming, he said. Federal level. Finance division. They've been watching Caldwell Enterprises for months. Ethan knows it. Sloane knows it. My throat tightened. How do you know? Caleb met my eyes. Because I was the one who tried to stop it. And when I pushed too hard, they pushed me out. He pointed at the folder images. This is them cleaning up. Moving assets. Building a story. Liana whispered. And Mira disappearing makes her not a witness. Caleb nodded. And if she speaks, they say she's bitter. Or unstable. Or worse. He looked at my stomach. Or they say she's lying to protect herself. I swallowed hard. What do I do? Caleb took a long breath. You need evidence. Real evidence. Not photos on your phone. Liana asked. And how do we get that? Caleb's eyes were cold. By making them think she's taking the deal. My heart slammed. What? Caleb held up a hand. Listen. If you fight now, they crush you. If you run without proof, they rewrite you as the villain. But if you pretend to cooperate, his gaze sharpened. You get close enough to take what you need. I stared at him, terrified. Ethan wants me gone. Caleb nodded. Exactly. So use that. I shook my head. He'll watch me. Caleb's voice stayed steady. He already thinks you're weak. He thinks money will buy your silence. He leaned closer. Let him believe it. The plan felt like walking into a storm holding a paper umbrella. But I didn't have options. Because now it wasn't just about my heart. It was about my child. And I could feel something rising in me. Something I didn't recognize. Not love. Not hope. Something sharper. Survival. 2 days later, I asked Ethan to meet. He chose a private restaurant where the booths were tall and the lighting was dim. A place where secrets could sit comfortably between plates. Ethan arrived 5 minutes late, because he always liked making people wait. He slid into the booth across from me, expression smooth. Have you decided? He asked. I kept my voice small, my eyes lowered. I hated playing this role, but I needed him relaxed. I'll sign, I whispered. Ethan's shoulders loosened. Good. I swallowed. But I need one thing. His eyes narrowed. What? A new contract, I said. One that includes medical coverage for a year. Ethan blinked, surprised. Medical coverage. I forced a shaky laugh. I'm stressed. I just want to feel secure. Ethan studied me like he was checking if I was lying. Then he smirked. Fine. He leaned back. You'll get your coverage. You'll get your money. And you'll be gone. My stomach churned, but I nodded. Then I said quietly, and the pregnancy? Ethan's face tightened. I hurried like I was afraid. I'm not asking you to be involved. I need time to think. Ethan's eyes were flat. You'll handle it. I nodded again, swallowing down rage like poison. He slid the folder toward me. Sign tomorrow. My people will handle the transfer. And then you disappear. I looked at the folder. And I smiled weakly. Okay, I said. But inside my mind was screaming. Because tomorrow I wasn't going to disappear. Tomorrow I was going to steal my life back. That night, Caleb and Liana sat with me at the kitchen table like we were planning a heist. We need something that proves intent, Caleb said. Emails, transfers, conversations, anything that ties Ethan and Sloane together. Liana asked, how do we get inside? Caleb looked at me. Where will the signing happen? At their legal office, I said. Caleb nodded. Then the documents will be there. And so will someone important. Who? Caleb's eyes narrowed. Sloane. My stomach flipped. Why would she be there? Because she won't trust Ethan to do it alone, Caleb said. This is too. Liana leaned forward. So we record them. Caleb nodded. Audio at minimum. Video if possible. My chest tightened. If they find out. Caleb cut in. They won't. Not if you act like you're already beaten. He slid a small device across the table. A recording pen. Click once to start, he said. Click twice to stop. Liana handed me a tiny camera pin. Wear it on your jacket. Nobody will notice. My hands shook as I picked them up. I didn't feel brave. I felt like a rabbit walking into a wolf den. But when I placed my palm over my stomach, something steadied me. I wasn't alone anymore. The next morning, I walked into the legal office wearing a simple beige coat with a camera pinned near the collar. My hair was pulled back. My makeup was minimal. I wanted to look tired, defeated. Ethan was there. His assistant. The same man in the perfect suit. And then the door opened. Sloane walked in. She was taller than me, sharper than me. Her hair was sleek, her smile thin. Her eyes focused like she was already deciding where to cut. Mira, she said warmly, but it didn't reach her eyes. I'm so sorry things turned out this way. I forced a small smile. Yeah. Sloane sat beside Ethan, close enough that their shoulders almost touched. Ethan didn't move away. That alone told me everything. The lawyer spoke in a calm voice, explaining the agreement. My fingers gripped the pen. The recording device in my pocket felt heavy. The lawyer slid the last page toward me. Sign here, he said. I lowered my head like I was ashamed. And as I did, I clicked the pen. Recording. I started signing. Slowly, my hand shaking on purpose. And as my signature formed, Sloane leaned toward Ethan and whispered. Not quiet enough. She doesn't suspect anything, Sloane murmured. Ethan's voice was low. She's desperate. That's all. Sloane's mouth curved. Good. Once she's gone, we can finalize the restructure. Ethan exhaled. And if she comes back? Sloane's tone turned cold. She won't. My blood chilled. I kept signing, my eyes on the paper. Sloane continued like she was talking about moving furniture. The transfer through her name is clean. The board can't accuse us of hiding assets. They'll see it as a divorce settlement. Ethan murmured. And the investigation? Sloane's voice sharpened. We bury it. Like we buried the rest. Bury. The rest. My stomach dropped. What rest? Ethan's voice came again tight. The baby complicates it. Sloane laughed softly. Not if she handles it. Ethan's jaw clenched. She might not. Sloane's voice was deadly calm. Then we handle it. My pen froze for half a second. I forced my hand to keep moving. And in that moment, I realized the truth was darker than money. They were talking about handling my unborn child like it was paperwork. I finished the signature. The lawyer smiled. Congratulations. This is finalized. Congratulations. Like my life ending was an achievement. Ethan stood. You'll receive the transfer by end of day. Sloane leaned close to me, her perfume expensive and suffocating. Take the money, she whispered, smiling. And enjoy your new life. I looked up at her, forcing my eyes to stay watery weak. Thank you, I whispered. But inside something snapped into place. 'Cause now I had their voices. Now I had proof. And now I knew. They didn't just want me gone. They wanted me erased. I walked out of that office breathing carefully, like one wrong breath would trigger a collapse. Outside, Caleb waited in a parked car. I slid into the seat, shaking. Did you get it? He asked. My fingers trembled as I held up the pen. Caleb took it like it was gold. He played back a small portion, just enough to confirm. Sloane's voice came through clearly. Once she's gone, we can finalize the restructure. Caleb's eyes hardened. Good. Liana in the back seat whispered. Now what? Caleb stared straight ahead. Now we hit them where it hurts. My chest tightened. The police. Caleb shook his head. Not yet. If we go too early, they'll claim it's out of context. He looked at me. We need one more piece. What? Caleb's voice was steady. The forged documents. The originals. The transfer trails. I swallowed. Where? Caleb's jaw tightened. Caldwell Enterprises has a private archive room. Only a few people have access. I already knew the answer before he said it. Ethan. Sloane. And one other name. Marjorie. Ethan's executive assistant. The woman who smiled at me every day while helping destroy me. Caleb pulled out his phone. You still have your security badge for the building? I nodded slowly. Caleb looked at Liana, then back at me. We're going in tonight. The Caldwell Enterprises tower looked different at night. In the day, it was glass and pride. At night, it was a dark blade cutting the sky. We parked in the underground garage. My heart pounded so loudly I felt like the cameras could hear it. Liana squeezed my hand. You're doing great. I didn't feel great. Felt sick. We entered through a side door. My badge still worked. That fact made me angry. They wanted me gone, but they hadn't even bothered to lock me out. Because they didn't see me as a threat. Caleb led us down a hallway lined with framed magazine covers of Ethan's face. Ethan smiling. Ethan shaking hands. Ethan saving the world. Hero made of lies. We reached the archive room. Caleb pulled out a small device to bypass the lock. But before he could use it, footsteps echoed down the hall. We froze. Keycard beeped. The door at the end opened. A woman's voice drifted. Marjorie. I told you it's already done, she said, sounding annoyed. Then another voice. Ethan. No mistakes, he said sharply. If anything leaks, we're finished. Marjorie sighed. She signed. She'll take the money. She'll vanish. Why are you still worried? Ethan's voice lowered. Because she's unpredictable. Marjorie scoffed. She's scared. That's what she is. Ethan's footsteps came closer. Caleb pulled us behind a large pillar near the archive room entrance. My breath stopped. Ethan and Marjorie appeared around the corner. Ethan looked tense, jaw tight. Marjorie clutched a folder. Ethan spoke again, harsh. Did you wipe the security logs? Marjorie rolled her eyes. Yes. The cameras in the legal office too. My heart raced. They were already covering tracks. Ethan's voice was cold. And the forged signatures. Marjorie patted the folder. All filed. All clean. Ethan exhaled. Good. Then Marjorie smirked. Honestly, Ethan, you should have done this earlier. She was never built for this life. Ethan didn't respond, but his silence was agreement. Marjorie swiped her card at the archive room. The lock clicked. They stepped inside. The door closed. Caleb's eyes met mine in the dim light. We waited. Seconds felt like years. Then the door opened again. Marjorie stepped out first. Ethan followed. They walked away down the hall, their footsteps fading. Caleb moved instantly. He rushed to the archive door, using his device to override the lock before it reset. The door clicked open. We slipped inside. The room smelled like paper and dust and secrets. Rows of cabinets. Boxes labeled with years and codes. Caleb whispered, "Search for anything with your name." My hands trembled as I opened drawers. Files. Contracts. Then I found it. A binder labeled, Mira Caldwell, Transfer Records. My stomach twisted. Opened it. Inside were pages and pages of documents signed by me. Different dates. Different agreements. All forged. Liana whispered, "Oh my God." Caleb's eyes were sharp. "Take photos. Every page. Quickly." I did. My phone camera clicked silently over and over. Then, at the back of the binder, I found something that made my blood turn ice cold. A document titled, Contingency Plan. Spousal silence. And underneath, a line that wasn't legal language. It was blunt. If Mira refuses relocation, initiate Option B. Option B. My hand shook so hard I almost dropped the binder. Caleb leaned in. "What is it?" I flipped the next page. Had 2 bullet points. Medical intervention arranged. Accidental incident staged. My vision blurred. Liana clapped a hand over her mouth. Caleb's face went stone. They weren't just planning to smear me. They were planning to hurt me. Maybe kill me. My knees buckled. Caleb caught my elbow. "We have enough," he whispered. "We leave. Now." We rushed out of the archive room, hearts pounding. We moved through the hallway like ghosts, trying not to breathe too loudly. Then my phone buzzed. A notification. Bank deposit. $800,000 received. My stomach dropped. The money had arrived, which meant the clock had started. And suddenly I realized the most terrifying part. In their minds, I was already gone. The next 48 hours were a blur of fear and motion. Caleb copied everything to encrypted drives. Liana packed a bag for me like I was about to flee the country. We moved between cheap motels, never staying in one place too long. I kept expecting to see Ethan's car outside. Kept expecting the knock at the door. But the knock didn't come. Not yet. Instead, the threats came quietly. First, my credit card stopped working. Then my phone lost service. Then a stranger called Liana from a blocked number and said one sentence. She should have taken the deal and stayed quiet. That night, I sat on a motel bed, hands shaking, staring at the ultrasound appointment card in my wallet. I was pregnant. And the people who wanted me gone were powerful. My baby deserved a chance. And so did I. Caleb finally said what I'd been afraid to hear. "We have to go federal." I swallowed hard. "Will they protect me?" Caleb's eyes were tired. "They'll try. But the moment we step forward, Ethan will fight like an animal in a trap." I whispered. "Then we step forward anyway." We did. Caleb had a contact, an investigator who owed him a favor. We met in a plain government building that smelled like coffee and old carpet. A woman in a navy suit listened as we laid everything out. The recording, the forged documents, the contingency plan. Her face didn't change much, but her eyes sharpened. When Caleb finished, she said one sentence. "This is conspiracy and fraud at minimum." Then she looked at me, voice softer. "And if that contingency plan is real, you're a witness in danger." A witness. Not a wife. Not a person. A witness. They placed me in protective housing. A small apartment with bland furniture and a view of nothing. But it was safe. For the first time in weeks, I slept without shoes on. The next morning the news exploded. Not because of me. Not yet. Because of Ethan. A headline screamed across every screen. Caldwell Enterprises under federal investigation amid allegations of asset concealment. Ethan's perfect world was cracking. And the moment the cracks appeared, the monsters underneath started crawling out. Ethan called me. I didn't answer. He called again. And again. Finally a text came through. You think you can destroy me? You don't know who you're fighting. My hand shook. But I typed back 2 words. I do. Then I turned off the phone. 2 days later, the investigator returned with a grim face. They're moving fast, she said. Ethan's lawyers are denying everything. Sloan is calling this a smear campaign. They're saying you stole money and fabricated evidence. My stomach clenched. Of course they are. The investigator nodded. But we have the documents. We have the recording. And we have something else now. She slid a folder across the table. Inside was a report. A whistleblower had come forward. Not Caleb. Someone inside the company. Someone who'd seen too much. And their statement included one line that made my blood run cold. There was another woman before Mira. She disappeared too. My chest tightened. What do you mean, disappeared? The investigator's eyes were steady. A former assistant. A woman named Rachel. She resigned suddenly and left the city. Nobody has heard from her since. My throat closed. Ethan did that. The investigator didn't answer directly. She just said, we're looking into it. That night, I sat alone in the safe apartment, staring at my hands. Another woman. Another disappearance. And suddenly, I understood the real reason Ethan looked afraid when I said I was pregnant. Because babies leave traces. Because babies bring questions. Because babies make women fight. And Ethan wasn't afraid of divorce. He was afraid of a mother. A week later, the climax hit like thunder. Federal agents raided Caldwell Enterprises. News helicopters hovered above the building. Employees streamed out like ants fleeing a cracked nest. Ethan's face appeared on screens, forced calm, escorted by lawyers. Then Sloan was shown leaving in a black car, expression tight. The investigator called me into her office. We found Rachel, she said. My breath stopped. Alive. She nodded. Barely. My knees nearly gave out. She was living under a different name, the investigator continued. She says she was paid to disappear too. She says Ethan and Sloan threatened her when she learned about forged transfers. My chest tightened. So I wasn't the first. The investigator's voice was firm. No. But you may be the one who stops it. Then she looked me in the eyes. They're offering Ethan a deal. My stomach dropped. A deal. A plea, she said. Reduced sentence if he blames everything on Sloan. I whispered. And will he? The investigator's mouth tightened. He'll blame anyone. That's what men like him do. Then she said, we need you to testify. My hands went cold. In court. She nodded. If you do, it locks the case. Makes it public. It protects you. Protects me. Or makes me a target forever. I looked down at my stomach. I thought about my child growing quietly inside me, unaware of the storm. And I made my choice. I'll testify, I said. The courtroom was colder than I expected. Not physically. Emotionally. The air felt like judgment. Ethan sat at the defense table in a suit so perfect it looked like armor. He didn't look at me at first. Sloan sat beside him, spine straight, lips pressed tight. When I took the stand, my hands trembled. But my voice didn't break. I told the story. The contract. The disappearance clause. The pregnancy. The threats. The forged documents. The recording. When they played Sloane's voice in court, then we handle it, a ripple moved through the room. Ethan's face tightened. Sloane's eyes flashed with anger. And for the first time Ethan looked at me. Not with love. Not with regret. With hatred. Like I was the one doing this to him. Like he wasn't the one because the money wasn't a gift. It was a leash. And I realized if I accepted it, I'd be paying with my silence. And maybe my life. The courtroom went quiet. Ethan's lawyer tried to paint me as greedy. Said I wanted attention. Said I was lying because I was angry. Then Ethan's lawyer asked the question meant to crush me. And isn't it true, Mira, that you're only here because you regret losing your billionaire lifestyle? The words hung like poison. Took a breath. Then I said slowly, clearly, for everyone to hear. I didn't lose my lifestyle. I looked directly at Ethan. I escaped it. The silence that followed felt like justice taking a breath. 2 hours later, the verdict on the preliminary charges came down. Conspiracy, fraud, obstruction. The judge denied bail. Ethan's face finally cracked. Sloane's composure shattered. As they led Ethan away, he turned toward me, eyes burning. "This isn't over," he mouthed. I didn't flinch. Because in that moment I understood something powerful. Men like Ethan live off fear. They feed on it. They use it like oxygen. And the moment you stop being afraid, they start suffocating. Months later, I sat on a porch in a small town far from skyscrapers. I had a new name on my mailbox. Not because I was hiding. 'Cause I was rebuilding. The air smelled like pine and rain. I held an ultrasound photo in my hand, looking at the tiny shape that had changed everything. Liana was inside making tea. Caleb was on the phone arguing with someone about paperwork. And for the first time in a long time, felt safe. Ethan's empire collapsed publicly. Sloane tried to cut a deal, but Rachel testified too. The pattern became undeniable. The court called it a coordinated campaign of manipulation and concealment. Called it what it was. Predators protecting themselves. Ethan lost more than money. He lost his mask. And when the mask fell, the world saw the monster. Sometimes karma doesn't come as lightning. Sometimes it comes as a woman who refuses to be erased. A woman who chooses truth over comfort. A woman who protects the life inside her, even when the world tries to buy